Welcome to the Beans of Us podcast. We invite app industry professionals to cover various topics. We promise to do our best to keep it both insightful and brief. In this episode, we have Gessica Bicego, marketing and growth consultant. Jessica, welcome back to the Beans of Us podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I cannot believe it's been 3 years.
It's been 3 years since we were recording the 100th episode. It was the anniversary episode for the show.
Wow.
135 episodes later, you're back.
I'm back and I'm so
Yeah,
excited.
this is great. Okay, let's set the stage for this episode. So, if there's one feature that helps app marketers to persevere through so much of a market change, it is adaptability. And app user acquisition costs were rising, and privacy constraints in mobile emerged. Marketers came up with a solution: web to app user acquisition channel. Rather than sending users directly to an app store, marketers now route users to a mobile web page first, typically one optimized for onboarding, education, or even a light product experience. This allows for better control over messaging, tracking, and personalization before nudging users to install the app. In this episode, we will delve into the concept of web first growth with Jessica, exploring the new playbook for acquiring app users. Jessica, before we dive in into this topic, tell me a little about yourself and your background in tech.
Absolutely. So I have a technical background. I studied computer science, but then I quickly realized that I had to move away from that. I was really not a good developer, I guess. And I fell in love with marketing. So I've been in the marketing world for about like 15 years. I started in Italy working in some agencies. Then I moved to Berlin where I worked for some other companies. And around 12 years ago, I ended up in the mobile app subscription space and I fell in love with it. So I was at Blinkist for 6 years, leading performance marketing and growth. Then I was at Paired for another 3 years as a CMO. And as of September last year, I decided to become a fractional CMO. So I've been working with like multiple mobile subscription apps. As I say, I really love this space and supporting them with a variety of different topics from creatives to like acquisition to retention, monetization, everything. So it's pretty good because now I can see a lot of different vertical, a lot of different apps. So it's been quite a journey and I'm having a lot of fun, to be honest.
Yeah, I could hear that in your voice. People who are passionate about what they're doing, you can hear when they're explaining what they've been doing, what was their career path. Okay, now let's talk about web to app funnel and user acquisition. You've
hmm
shifted your UA focus from traditional app installs to web based strategies. What
Yeah.
were the initial signs or metrics that convinced you the shift was worth exploring?
Absolutely. As probably most of like the great ideas, sometimes they come randomly. And I think this is actually how this idea started initially. So if I can think about the first time where I decided to use a web, let's say, technique to acquire mobile users, it was at my time at Blinkist. So we're talking about like probably 9 years ago, 10 years ago, I don't even remember. And it was the time where we had Meta running. We were looking for a new channel and we decided to explore what we called at the time paid content. So that means using network like Outbrain and Taboola to drive traffic to an article, a blog post. And then the blog post would be upselling the app and having clear call to action that lead to the App Store. That was the first time that it happened. And it happened because as a necessity, like we needed to go to a different channel because we didn't want to depend on just one channel. We knew that based on the product, there was Blinkist, it made sense to go to these type of networks because we knew that there was like a high, there was a lot of like audience that was kind of matching with the audience of Blinkist. So it made a lot of sense. And we tried like an approach that was more performance, if you want, or more marketing driven, where you will guide people directly to the App Store, but it never really worked. And so what we ended up doing is developing like long pieces of content that were really entertaining, that were really like, kind of spot on the topic, and they will make people interested in that, but also ultimately convert. That was the first time that we did it. And again, it came from a necessity to explore a different type of word. And what I'm saying that is like sometimes it's also like a matter of luck, is that what ended up happening is that we found a new amazing channel. It was probably like one of the biggest channel at Blinkist. I think it's still one of the biggest one. And this channel, like these kind of landing pages that we develop, they also became one of the assets for Meta. That's the first time where I started to say like, okay, it really works. And at the time, the reason that it was working, it's because Blinkist was building a new vertical that was like, learn more in less time. It was not so common. There were not many competitors at the time. And in order to explain this new vertical and why you would use the app, you needed a longer explanation. Just having an ad with like one copy was not enough. So having a long article where we have like paragraph and a lot of words to convince the user to give it a chance, it just resonated better and it made marketing better. So that's why it worked there. Now, a couple of years pass, and then we have ATT and we have privacy issues, and you're not able to track anything. And of course, this is like a huge, huge issue. Now, what happened is that at the time I was like, I think I switched already to paired. What I realized is like, okay, I cannot track. Most of the things cannot be tracked. I also realized that there was a lot of competition, to be honest, on the same audience that I was trying to target. At the same time, you could still track, with Scan, you can still track, but like you have a lot of delays, and also like you cannot really rely on ad level data. And then I thought back about, these web campaigns that I was running before. And I thought like, okay, maybe there's something there. Maybe we can make web work. And it started, to be honest, as an experiment. Try to see like what happens if I start driving traffic there with with sales campaign instead of like our promotion campaign. And the results were amazing. So first of all, I was able to target a new audience. I noticed that it was a new audience because I noticed that the age split was different, the gender was different. Also, the CPM was different, to be honest. It was much more expensive. But then what I noticed also is that these users were converting better compared to my normal app users. And I think these were the first initial metrics that made me realize like, okay, there's something here to unlock. Like it could be a new growth channels. And what happened is that in a couple of months, I found a couple of tricks. Well, we found a couple of tricks with the team and everything, and we completely switched our acquisition to web. So again, it was like it's a process that started like 10 years ago, and it continued through the years, and it brought me now to a completely new way of acquisition is actually driving people mainly through web. Then of course there are different ways, let's say, of like converting users that we can talk about, I'm sure, in this podcast. But yeah, that's how it started. These are the metrics that I saw that made me realize like, okay, that's something here.
Love it. Like on so many occasions in science and marketing, in pretty much every field you can think of, serendipity and chance plays a huge role. People may afterwards came up with a story, how they were actually thinking deliberately to do something, but on so many occasions it's just a pure chance when you realize you can use it, and it turns out later this is your great asset. This is the new venue, new channel for you to move through. And yeah, there was a time when web was seemed like an obsolete channel. Like we all switched to mobile. Everybody were obsessed with mobile. Then it turns out, there was actually a great use case for web. It's still useful, and it's a great asset for a marketer, even a mobile marketer.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
there are quite a few approaches under web to app umbrella, from mini landing
Hmm.
pages to full web onboarding. How do you
Yeah.
decide which path to take based on an app's stage and product type?
Absolutely. I would say there are even three approaches. Like maybe the umbrella are two, like either you send them to a landing page, but ultimately they convert on the app store. So all the call to action will lead to the store, Play Store. Um, or you guide them through a web funnel where you have like lots of questions and you end up purchasing on web. If we look about the first part, so landing pages in general, I think this one has two options. You can have, I call them the long landing pages or like content landing pages, similar to the one that we were having at Blinkist, where we will have like a long piece of content, still like super connected with the app and the promotion of the app. And then you will probably, like, your goal was to make people read this piece of content and then go to the store. Or you can have what you call the mini landing pages, what you just call them. In this case, you have like kind of a basic landing page. Usually you have like one image, a title, and a strong call to action. Let's say, where do you start? I feel that most of the companies, at least maybe the companies that I'm working with, they don't have big teams, and they need maybe something that is a little bit easier to tap into the web acquisition for mobile apps. And I found that mini landing pages are probably the easier way to do that, because just with a landing page, you can like switch your campaigns. Let's say that we are advertising on Meta, for example, or on TikTok as well. And these are usually platforms that everyone are advertising on. You can quickly switch to these campaigns. You just have this landing page, and literally with the same creative wins that you have for your app promotion campaigns, you can make these campaigns work. So I found that this approach is like really like a low hanging fruits. If your app promotion campaigns are running, and they're profitable, I feel that your web acquisition campaigns are also going to be, profitable and are going to work. Now, I don't think that if you never had like if your campaigns were never profitable, or like if you don't have product market fit, web to app is not going to save you, right? Like, it's not going to be the thing that is going to save you completely, but it can give you some like additional insights so that you can speed up the learning process. For example, let's say that you are a new app and you don't know which creators are working for you. You can test faster, you have more reliable results to reach that level where you can spend more. So again, long story short, mini landing pages are super easy. Probably that's where I would start. And especially, I think if your app promotion campaigns have been stalling, I think it's a good way to do it. Just like another thing to specify, if you do mini landing pages, there are two ways of doing that. First way, you develop actually a landing page. You try to have an auto redirect feature. So you put some like code in the page so that you automatically call the attribution. Most of the MMP, they have like kind of a function that you can use so that as soon as people land on your page, the attribution is sent to your MMP, that being singular adjustable apps flyer. In this way, when the user click on the ad, what they're going to see the landing page for like maybe 1 second, but then the App Store is going to be preview directly on your ad. That's the first way. It's amazing. Of course, you need some resources, right? You need like a developer to put in place your landing page. You need maybe like a data engineer to make sure that everything is correct, you're sending the right data, and so on. Now, luckily, most of the MNPs have finally understood that, web is an important part of this business. And so they updated themselves, and they're offering a feature that doesn't really have like a full name. The name is different for each MMP, but I call it auto redirect. So what happens is that you can set up on the MMP a specific link that you're going to use on your website campaign. And then the MMP has something called like copy integration or Facebook web integration or TikTok web integration, where you can associate in-app events to website events. This is useful also for the normal landing pages. And then what happened is that instead of having a proper landing page, you use this link on your ads, and it works right away. So again, no need of developer, nothing. There's some downsides. It feels really easy. Like, you're probably wondering, like, okay, let's all use it. There's some data loss. So what I found is that if you are using the proper mini landing pages, you're probably going to be able to track maybe 10 to 15%, sometimes 20% more compared to this auto redirect trick that the MMP is offering. I'm not sure why, but I think that when everything is handled by the MMP, I think that there's some like maybe parameters loss. So when you send data to Facebook or TikTok, they just get lost. So again, I think this one is probably like the basic. And if someone is running campaigns, I would probably tell them right away to try to shift to web just because it gives you better data. It helps you with your creative analysis, creative optimization, creative research. So again, is the first thing that I would do. Web funnels. Web funnels are amazing. I love it because again, it's just a different type of marketing, like similar to what I was doing at Blinkist. I was sending people to a landing page with like a long piece of content where I would tell a story, and in the story upsell my product, Blinkist. This is exactly the same. You send people to like a long onboarding, and the idea is like it's called an empathy-based onboarding. I think the product managers from Headway did like an amazing presentation, and they say like you are trying to inspire emotions. You are selling your product by connecting with the user. So there's a lot of questions that maybe they're not super necessary for product usage. Like they're not going to be using that information in like when you're using the product, but it makes you connect and understand. And I think probably the fitness app were the first doing that. I can remember Noom, for example, with their 15 and over questions. And I remember that I tried it as a marketeer. And by the end, I was like, maybe I should use this app. Maybe I should give it the money because they were so good at asking me the right questions. They made me feel heard. And that's exactly the same. But the issue with the web funnel, again, sorry, another actually positive thing is that so you create this empathy, you can upsell the product, you can better explain what you do. Again, you have a long onboarding to do that and to explain. And then at the end of the day, you can also make them convert on web. I mean, amazing. No fee to the App Store. You have higher margins, you have higher renewal rate as well. Like I think the average renewal rate is probably around 60% on web, 60 to 70. So again, that's perfect. Now, the problem is that it just takes a long time and a lot of resources, right? Right now, there's a lot of tools out there that help you with the funnel creation. So they offer you kind of templates so you can plug and play and say like, okay, let me put this screen, then that screen, that screen. They help you customize the paywall. They help you customize the offer that you make. So again, they make things easier. But the thing is that from going from zero to the final funnel is going to take you probably months and a lot of resources. So to be honest, I think at Paired we had internal resources to develop the onboarding. We had designers, we have developers, but it's still like you need a project manager that is like has a marketeer or a growth mindset that is leading everyone. And there's a lot of like things that get lost. So you want to try a new thing, you need to put it on a Figma file, add that, tell the developer to add things. Like it just gets really complicated. And I feel with a tool, it makes everything easier and you're like much faster. But still, you need someone to lead the process. You need to understand what type of topic should I add, like are they connected with my app, and then what type of offer do you have. Most of the apps out there, they offer different prices if you are on your app flow or if you are on your web flow. So again, there's a lot of variables there, and I feel like I would tell people go there if you have the right people in your team that can take care of this project, because this is not a side project. Like you can easily spend probably like 8 hours a day with a full team dedicated to this for months before you get to something that you can actually spend, a lot of money on. Sorry, that was a
Gotcha.
long answer.
No, this is totally great. You have way more space, freedom to experiment, to interact more, to engage better with your audience, to deliver greater message, but it takes more resources. So there's always a flip side. You mentioned
Yeah.
testing, so let's switch to testing. Creative
Mm-hmm.
testing on web versus app. What changes in how you test, learn, and optimize? Any unexpected
Mm-hmm.
insights when you moved that process to web?
Absolutely. Well, I would say that probably creative testing is one of the main reason for moving to web in general, because again, you usually compared to your app promotion campaigns, you can probably, I would say, report on Meta directly 10 to 20% more conversion. So you simply have more data. Your data is like it happens right away, so you don't have the delay of scan. And more or less you can rely on ad level data. Not 100% because there's still like some probabilistic attribution, but again, you can still rely on that. So what changes is that finally you don't need to test for like weeks. You can probably test for like days, let's say, and get results right away. Normally, when I was testing with ad campaigns, I would only look at ad set reporting, while now you can go deep to the ad level and look at the reporting there. And in general, because you have more events, you may be able to test for down the funnel event. Like personally, I really don't like to test to upper funnel events, so installs or maybe like creating an account, because what I notice is that the winners that you find in campaigns that are optimized for this, they are not winners for your business as usual campaign. They are maybe optimized for trial or for trial active hour 2. Like it doesn't there's no match, so you may end up with a lot of like winners that are not real winners at the end of the funnel. So again, I feel this is actually what changes there. And also because you don't need to test for too many days, again, with Scan, probably you need to wait for a little bit of time. So by the time that you have data, it's, you cannot really optimize, or you cannot rely to like down the funnel data. I feel like with web, you add more velocity, more reliable. Oh my God, how do you say? Data is more reliable in general. And yeah, you can make decision faster, you can iterate faster. So it's just like so much better. So yeah, that's usually what changes. You run the campaigns for less time, you report on ad level data, and you can trust to ad level data when you do your reporting.
Got you. Okay. A web onboarding flow is a guided experience of the web that introduces users to an app. And web onboarding flows are growing more complex. I've heard some of these even like 40 screens deep. Uh, what makes a good onboarding flow today? And quite frankly, how do you avoid getting lost in the data?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the problem, right? Because I think, to me, when I think about starting a new funnel for a new client, I mean, where do you even start, right? Like, what is the first screen that you add? And it's like there's a lot that goes into like analyzing your audience, trying to understand what they do, their behavior. Probably the best way to start when you want to like build a web funnel is a user survey. Try to understand like your current users, what do they do, what do they like, what are the things that are important to them. And then regarding the analyzing the funnel so that you can get better, because again, you're going to have to experiment for months and months. I think that there are some baseline, like some basic KPIs and there are some benchmark out there that you can look at. For example, there's two important, like I would say three important moments. Um, Out of the people that like reach the web funnel, so they open the first questionnaire, how many people go to the second question? That's the first, I would say, strong KPI. If that number is like 10%, you're never gonna make your web funnel work. Like it doesn't make sense to concentrate later on. So I would say to have a benchmark, and I think like if I remember correctly, the benchmark is probably between 40 and 60% of users that land on the first page, they should go to the second page. If that doesn't happen, it doesn't really make sense to work on anything else beyond that first screen. You should stay there and focus there. Then there are some other benchmarks. So how many people reach the paywall, for example? And of course, the paywall is all about like what is happening between that first question the people answer and the paywall, like the pricing page. And there's one last benchmark that is the purchase rate. So in general, like compared to the people that lens on the flow, how many people will actually purchase? And I think that is usually around like between 5 to 10%. So knowing all these benchmark, you can try to break it down and understand, first of all, where is your issue? Like it happened to me with some clients that I actually focused maybe later on the funnel when actually my problem was at the beginning. And just with a copy change, I could get more done than changing any single screen that was displayed after. So that's the first thing. Look at all this benchmark and try to understand where do you stand. Or, for example, if your purchase rate from pay will view is not that good, maybe it's the pricing option that you need to change, and so on and so forth. So that's the first thing. Then what I try to do usually is because again, imagine that you have 40 screen and you have to analyze for each of them, what is the ratio of people that arrive and then went to the next question. You're going to go absolutely crazy. So usually what I like to do, I like to split on section. So you can have section dedicated to, like, I don't know, demographic data, or a section related to, I don't know, something else. Like, I think if you look at flow from others, like the headway flow, for example, you can really see that they're split between, I don't know, what type of learner are you, what is blocking you. Again, there are like some clear sections. And then when you try to analyze, first is like you try to see, okay, how many people move from section to section, and what happened when you move an entire section from here to here. So you move them around and you change the order. And that's usually how I like to look at the data. And then within one section, if you say like, okay, this section is really like driving away a lot of users, then you can go deeper and you really focus like, okay, screen by screen, what can I do better? So that's usually how I like to approach. But then there are some other things to consider. Number one, I think a lot of time as marketeers and we get lost in data. So we tend to like see this huge amount of numbers. We're like, yeah, let's go, let's analyze. But nothing is better than talking to user. So my recommendation will be like, get in a virtual room with somebody, get them like to actually complete the funnel and see where people stop. We did that paired, and it was amazing. Like, because remember there was one question specifically that, on paper, on the data side, it was just like, it was not really showing any trend. But when we were in the call, people were like, oh, this question made me reflect. Like, now I understand what your product is trying to do. And again, we would never have guessed that, but it was so important. So again, talk to your users. The other thing is, when analyzing the data, and this is more for the pricing and monetization side, think about what you're offering, and the type of subscription that you're offering and the return. Especially knowing the web is different. Like, we know the web has a higher renewal rate. You can assume that it's probably like 3 times or at least double what you see on your app flow. So for example, let's imagine that you have, like what I see at least a lot of apps doing is that they have a 3 month subscription, so quarterly subscription. And let's imagine that normally for your ad campaigns, you're really like, oriented to profitability. So you want to get back the money right away. Because we know that there's a higher renewal rate, you may want to change your goals based on this, because what could happen is that maybe you're actually not positive after, at day zero. Also, most of the apps don't have a trial, so that's why I say day zero and not day 8. So maybe you're not actually profitable there, but you're amazing at day 90. So it makes more sense to look at your production in revenue rather than the revenue right away. So again, this is probably like another additional data point that I will bring to analyze your web funnels. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of data. It's really complex, but again, it can really pay out in terms of like the growth that this channel, I call it channel because at the end it is a channel, can give you.
This is gold, Jessica. I can see how much thought should be going into the every step of a funnel to make it work, and how you should be mindful at what point something goes drastically wrong and you should stop and analyze what's going on. Otherwise, it's not going to work. The whole system will collapse.
Absolutely.
Okay, to land the plane, so to speak, comes this question. Jessica, today, looking at the app industry, what are you most and least excited about? What keeps you up at night?
Okay, so I would say the thing that I'm the most excited about are probably two things. One is AI. Like, I think AI has just made our job much easier in a lot of things. And I think when it comes to like especially user acquisition, and maybe creative production, there's a lot that you can do with AI that was not possible before. And so I'm pretty excited about the fact that suddenly, even, myself, like, I'm not a designer, I'm not a copywriter, but I think with the support of AI, I can come up with different things. And because AI can analyze like huge amount of data, just makes my job easier. So I think for me, that's probably like really one thing that I'm really excited. The other thing that I'm excited are new growth tactics, I would call them, that are more organic. So you probably have seen apps out there, working with like content creators on TikTok, getting getting them to create like an account dedicated to the app, and then trying to go viral organically. And of course, they have like maybe like 10 or 15 different content creators. They publish content every day, and the idea is like to create all these satellite channels that are bringing traffic. And I love it because it's kind of an organic technique, but it's really technical, right? We're talking about like users produce content. They make a certain amount of views. You know that for a certain amount of views, you're going to have a certain amount of installs as well. But it's different, and it relies a lot on content creation, on influencers, and so on. And I'm just like really attracted to this because I found it like finally you don't, I mean, you still have to pay somehow, but it's a different type of channels. And the good thing is that these channels can also be a source of inspiration for your ads, or they can be actually your ads. You can use them on TikTok and use like a spark code and, use it as an ad. So again, these are probably the things that I'm more the most excited about. The things that keeps me up at night is but are the same actually. AI, especially when it comes to creative. I'm wondering if we will reach a point where everything will look the same. Like already now I can see that, especially when I look at the creative environment for mobile subscription apps, they're all the same. There's a lot of repetition, like everyone is copying each other. And you can end up that at the end they all look the same and you don't know like who is talking. But so that is one thing. And the second thing is probably, web was able to give us a lot of like better data, more reliable data, but we know that there will be a time soon where that data is not going to be available, and maybe we're going to have block the same blockage for web that we had for mobile. And yeah, we're going to have to find a new way, let's say a new tactic to attract users. It doesn't scare me because if I think about the time, I remember about the ATT time, like the new privacy policy, we were all freaking out because we were used to something and we were like, oh my God, now I don't have data. What am I going to do? And we all made it somehow, right? We found new ways. Or if I think about even 15 years ago when all the platforms started to introduce AI and we were like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Like what is our job going to be? And we kind of evolved together with that, so I'm not really scared about that. But there's a little bit of like of a time where you are not sure about what's coming, where you have to find the new tax in a new way, where you feel like scared, and I think it's normal. But yeah, I'm mostly excited, to be honest. Like I'm pretty sure we're going to find a way to grow in any case.
I totally hear it, Jessica. Uncharted territory. We all have this uneasy feeling. On one side, we are really excited about the potential. It's so many areas: science, medicine, marketing, anything. And the flip side, yeah, there's this threat that at some point, because there is only one way to optimize things to make them perfect, and we're going to be heading the same goal from different angles, from different AI, but getting the same result over and over. It may give you kind of a sameness feeling over time, but this is our assumption sitting here in May of 2025. We'll see what's going to happen then when it will be hitting the app stores and the web pages. Are we going to have the sameness or not? We'll see. Okay, before I let you go, how can people get in touch with you and get more information about what you do?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, of course. My name is Gessica Bicego with the G, Jessica with the G, because people like usually they spell it with a J. You can find me there, send over your questions. I also try to publish when I can some insights, like presentation that I do. So yeah, just feel free to reach out there, ask me any question you may have. And let me know if you try new tactics, new flow. I'm always like looking for other people that are experimenting so that we can exchange learnings. So we'd love to hear from all of you.
Jessica, thank you so much for coming on our show and sharing your knowledge and experience. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. And that was Jessica Bicego, marketing and growth consultant. To listen to more episodes, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube podcasts. Just search for Business of Apps and you will find us easily. Remember, we release episodes on Mondays, so subscribe and you will be able to get new episodes on your smartphone, tablet, or computer as soon as we release them. And please don't forget to leave us a review or comment on iTunes. It is highly appreciated. And our episodes will also be available on businessofapps.com. Thank you for listening. See you next week.